Hey guys, hope you're doing well. I hope you are not melting. So today I want to talk a bit about what it means to be in a high vibration. And the reason why I want to talk about this is because I think so many people get it wrong. And obviously, due to false information you will find online. Now, I always want to warn you guys that using ChatGPT, using all kinds of apps and reading just stuff online contains a lot of false informations, and these algorithms basically work in a certain way, and therefore you will not really usually get the right information the majority of the times, I would say. So, having said that, please be mindful where you pick your informations from. But usually, this misconception comes from social media mainly, and especially the very popular law of attraction, law of assumption coaches, and influencers, and all sorts of things like that. And basically, people have this idea that being in a high vibration means that you're always happy, you're always positive, and things always work well for you, and everything's always perfect, and you're always in the perfect mood, and things like that. But that is very far from the truth. So, the way that I would describe high vibration would be peace. That's the best way to describe it. It's that feeling of inner peace. So when you are okay with yourself, when you are safe and secure within yourself, when you don't need outside validation, when you don't seek outside validation, when you don't get anxiety because somebody doesn't reply to a text. Now that is high vibration. Now, what it also is feeling sad, is feeling angry, is feeling all the feelings basically. Feelings exist for a reason. Crying exists for a reason. And we are human beings and we're meant to feel all the feelings. And obviously, even if you are at peace with yourself, even if you feel that inner peace, you will get angry every now and then throughout the day. You will get sad. You will get, all sorts of negative emotions. You're going to experience them. And even anxiety, because anxiety and fear is an emotion that does exist for a reason. And it's basically meant to kind of alarm you about some sort of danger, so you have time to run away, or you can go to the doctor or whatever it is. So those are all things that exist for a reason. And the problem is only when you have severe anxiety and fear over you know something that is like texting or anything like that. So when you have that anxiety, basically when you're anxiously attached, and then you're always in that state of worry and urgency and all of those stuff, which is not inner peace, that's when the problem arises, right? But if you are, in general, feeling at peace and there's actual danger, of course you're going to feel fear, and of course you're going to feel anxiety. That is perfectly normal, and that's how it should be. So, being in high vibration does not mean that bad things will never happen to you, because they happen to everyone and they will just happen sometimes, because that's life. That's how we grow, that's how we learn, and that's how life is. And I don't know, they kind of make it seem like all you need to do is affirm and you'll always be happy and everything will always be great and you will never die and you will never be sick. And it's just unrealistic. And I know that people kind of like it because we would all want it to be that way, clearly. But that's just not how it is, and it's delusional. So yes, you will experience bad things even if you have that calm inner peace. Bad things will always happen to everyone, but the point is that you will deal with them easier, healthier, and you'll be just be more prepared and more able to deal with them in a healthy manner. And that's what it is about. You will not get, you know, all anxious and worried about smaller things, and that's the point. So I hope that this makes sense, and I hope that everybody kind of understands this. What I'm trying to say is that feeling sad sometimes and feeling, needy sometimes, and sometimes feeling angry and resentful and all the feelings is perfectly normal, and it would be very weird if something sad happened and you wouldn't feel sad. And crying is also really amazing, because have you noticed that after you cry you like immediately feel a little bit better and a little bit relieved? So it's a way to get that tension out, and it's quite amazing. So crying is also absolutely allowed. um, so I really want to emphasize these things because I do get questions about it, and people freak out if they're having a bad day, or if they're feeling sad or angry, or whatever. And that will not ruin anything. It's perfectly normal to have bad days or a bad week, even if you are, you know, high vibrational, even if you feel that inner peace. Yes, you can feel sad, you can have a horrible day, and you will have a horrible day every now and then. We all do. It is perfectly normal. So you got to be aware of those things and be very mindful about the content online, as I always say, because there's a lot of things that will just seem too good to be true because they are, you know. And being delusional is not a way to get anywhere, but getting that validation inside and that safety from yourself, that is the way to get everywhere. That's what's important. So another thing that I wanted to tackle is also that when we do instructions and when you're instructed to focus on yourself, it does not mean that you are focusing on yourself so that your ex will come back. So the reason why we have instructions and vibrational work, it doesn't bring the ex back. It doesn't affect the ex. It affects your energy. So it changes the energy that you transmit, because when you are in that needy energy, then you are like, you know, causing energetically for the person to pull away. That's the thing, and that's what we want to prevent. So it doesn't necessarily make people come back. So very important. But if you have spells going, it's very important that you go through the process of vibrational work, and it's important to do it anyways, with or without spell work, with or without the axis, But since we are, doing it for the axis here, it's important that you do it because you will see progress sooner. You will see progress in like different ways, and it's just going to be very good for you in general and for the future. And you already know all of this, so I'm not going to get into it. But recently I had this person that said, I've been focusing on my job and I have been really good at work, but guess what, the person that I'm interested in still hasn't like messaged me. Like, focusing on your work does not make people text you. It doesn't work like that. It simply doesn't, and it can't work like that. So it's about your energy. It's about bringing that energy back to yourself, detaching, and also about definitely working on that validation from inside. And clearly this person is not doing that, is not doing the inner work. Sure, they're focusing on their work, great, but they're not doing the inner work they're supposed to be doing, because then they wouldn't still feel so anxious. And clearly, it's all about, but they're not back yet, nothing happened yet. So that is still that urgency, that is still not focusing on yourself, and that is definitely seeking outside validation, which of course we all do sometimes. And it's again normal. I just want to emphasize that as well, that it's normal to, want outside validation, to want to get a text, to want to get, whatever it is. Uh, of course, that's the point. However, when we are anxious, if we are not getting it, that's when we have a problem, when you're validating yourself on the inside, but, obviously you still want somebody else to validate you because you like them, that's okay. But when you're solely relying on the outside validation and you desperately need it, and you're anxious if you don't have it, and your whole day is ruined if somebody doesn't text you, that's the problem. So I think it's very important to keep these things, to understand the difference with these things, because there is a difference between, feeling anxious because you're waiting for your test results, pregnancy test or something. Of course, you're going to feel anxious. Of course, you're going to feel scared. But if you are feeling anxious because somebody is not texting you every 2 minutes, that's a whole different anxiety. Sometimes anxiety is needed and is something that is normal and something that happens to everyone, and sometimes it's a sign of anxious attachment. So it will all depend, and you have to be mindful about it just to know when it's normal, when it's not. And do not think that you need to be perfect, because nobody is perfect and nobody can be perfect. That you need to, just always be positive, always be happy. That's not possible. That's not realistic. That's delusional. That will never happen, and that shouldn't ever happen either. So it's okay to feel the feelings. It's okay to have a bad day. What is a problem is, attachment, anxious attachment, fearful avoidant attachment. Any type of attachment that's not safe and secure obviously will be a problem, and that's the main thing. Victim mentality, obviously. When something bad happens to you and then another bad thing happens, and then you're like thinking, why is universe punishing me? Why is God punishing me? Why is God hating me? Why is universe hating me? And I'm using both because it's going to depend which resonates with you. Obviously, some people are religious, some are not, and that's both of those is good. It's all fine. But the point is that nobody hates you and nobody is trying to punish you for anything. Bad things happen to everyone. But if it seems to you that it's just you and the worst things are happening to you, and it's always you, and why you, and you kind of see yourself as the target, and you see yourself as somebody who is like being punished and somebody who is experiencing the worst pain in the world, then it's victim mentality, because that's not realistic. Again, everybody experiences bad things at times, and it's not you, nobody's punishing you. So when it gets to the point where you're thinking, oh, I'm the biggest victim, that is victim mentality. But sometimes thinking, oh, I'm a victim, or oh no, but something bad has happened, why, that is normal again, because obviously you will not be happy that something bad is happening, and nobody will be, and everybody will be like distressed and afraid and all of those things. So again, always be mindful, always be aware. And if you are really in victim mentality, where you see yourself as this isolated victim and only you are experiencing the most horrible things in your opinion, it also shows that, and this is typical with like victim mentality and attachment styles, that you are kind of not, you have kind of isolated yourself from the mutual energy, because we're all connected. And when you see yourself as this individual who is disconnected and who is a victim and who has it the worst, then it's a sign that something is off. So keep these things in mind always. Also, when you are doing vibrational work, guys, what I really recommend is finding those limiting beliefs and searching really well. I will say that limiting beliefs and beliefs in general are created when you are a child, and those are beliefs that you have, and some of them you don't even realize are limiting. And these beliefs will depend on your culture, will depend on your religion, will depend on your upbringing, your parents, your surroundings, the time when you were a child. There is a thing called a collective mindset, and collective mindset changes quite often every few decades or so. Every generation will have a different collective mindset. Have you noticed that? Like the millennials, the Gen Z, they will all be kind of different, and they will have different opinions of things and like different beliefs. Or even the generations before, like boomers, they will be very different with their mindset than the millennials. And that's because when they were being programmed as kids, the world was different. And that's how their mindset was created. So keep that in mind. And also, something that is normal in some cultures, when you look at other culture, it will not be the mindset of another culture, but in that culture it will be like completely normal, and it will be a collective mindset. So a lot will depend just on things like that. So be mindful with the things like that, because with things like that, I'm sorry, because those are not really your beliefs. Those are just the beliefs you have picked up that somebody told you is the truth, and you believed it because you were like 4 years old. So beliefs can be changed, and limiting beliefs can be changed, and that's what we are doing here, because limiting beliefs do not serve us and do not do anything good for us. Anyways, I'm sorry I'm rambling, but I just really wanted to kind of make it easier on everyone. And I hope that at least some of this was helpful to one person at least. Love you guys. Bye.